like right now there's a lot of people that are spending hours and hours at a time on video conferencing, and you know, it's in my nature to try to geek out about something. So I've been trying to geek out about my camera gear that's been sitting around. So I was like, let me plug this in and try to get it
Yeah.
going. Can you just like, maybe what are some general like things that someone can do to like improve some video know-how, or even with the stuff that they have, like if it's just little things that like an average person that doesn't have to spend a dollar can make their video conferencing situation a little better?
Mm, I would say that it all comes down to lighting, I think.
Mm,
You know, I remember there was this when the DSLR boom happened, and there was this like conference at like Skywalker Ranch where
yeah.
like a bunch of top DPs came in, and they were basically showing the comparison. They basically like shot the same scene over and over on a Red, on an Alexa, on a Canon DSLR, and so on. And they showed how great of an image you can like get out of them if you light forward them. If you put a DSLR in a setting where it was, let's say they didn't change the lighting settings of the scene when they took out the Alexa and put in the DSLR, like it might look like crap,
Right.
because the highlights blow out really, really fast. Like I'm sure everybody who doesn't have like a lot of video experience has probably dealt with like a really, really crazy bright white sky or a really bright white background, and there's nothing that they can really do about it.
Right.
It's just becoming familiar with like how much light your camera can take before it blows out, because to me the blowouts are like, and they don't look appealing at all, and it kind of doesn't look professional.
Right.
But if you can learn how to kind of like um, recognize that and kind of light for your camera, like you can get like a lot of really great results. Like um,
I
I
would say
know
even
that.
yours, like right now, the background is kind of blown out, but it's actually pretty pleasing. Like, cause I
Yeah,
see your
I
face,
mean,
like,
I'm definitely not trying. I can show you over here. Like I have my 300D set up, and I have it pointed at the ceiling, and I'll just
yeah.
like turn this on,
Oh, wow.
and it's just directly at the ceiling, but it does create like some more overall like level in the room and fills out this side and whatnot. And I can point the light like right here at the white wall directly behind my screen and just get like a really soft light on me.
Oh, okay. That's smart.
Um, and and the thing is, like, the brighter that light gets, the more the background's going to come down, if that
Mm,
makes sense. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, so it's really just like learning how to light for your camera. Like there's this great YouTube video that I saw the other day where this guy was literally just walking people through how to do exactly that, like how to light for your camera in kind of like a video conference setting or a vlog setting or whatnot, where you kind of have like your go-to spot. Your lights aren't really going to move, and it's just going to be that thing you always return to. Like, and it looked very similar to yours, like where you got that like incandescent bulb in the background, and you got like kind of like that soft side light. Um, I feel like also softer light is much more pleasing than hard light.
Right.
So the
I for sure learned that the hard way.
yeah. So like the fact that you have like diffusion on your light is like a great start. Obviously like you the the smaller the source, the sharper the light.
Right.
So the wider of a light that you can get, the better. And so you can have like a diffused light, but if it's super far away from you, um, you have to think of it in terms of like scale here. So when the light is up against you, let's say the light is like this, like the actual light is this big.
Right.
When you back it up, the light is now like this big. You
Right.
know
It's
what I
further,
mean?
it
So it's
gets
like you get
smaller.
all these harder shadows based on distance.
Got it. So you
So you
want
can take,
closer and larger.
yeah, but also like with the, what was the rule called? Um, it was it was the inverse square law. It's the idea that light that is very close to you, like there is more fall off and a decrease in light intensity there's more of a decrease in light intensity within like the first few feet than there is in like, beyond that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like a really intense fall off,
Right.
So if we were in like a photography setting and we had like a white backdrop like 10 feet behind us, if I brought the light in really, really close to my subject and set the camera settings to level for that light,
yeah,
the light fall off is going to be so great that the background might be like a really dark gray or even black. But if I back up the light and boost and if I back up the light and set my camera settings, because obviously when I back up the light, there's going to be less light on my face or a lesser intensity.
Right.
If you reset the camera settings for that, you're going to have a much brighter background.
Right.
So there's there's rules like
because
that.
Because you're receding into the background a little bit, right?
It's sort of, yeah, you're kind of within that light range where the light really isn't falling off that much between like this many feet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like, how to improve your stuff, without, I mean, people need lights, they need,
but most of the time, like the light in, like, let's say someone's doing a Zoom call in their office, right?
Yeah.
The light is right above them. So you got all these dark shadows, or there's a window behind them.
Yeah.
Or like, so I don't know if there's, again, this is for probably 99% of people, they're just going to do their thing and wherever they are, they are. But for that 1% that likes to, are interested in tweaking and like making things better.
If they don't want to spend any money, maybe they already have this in their house, like get some shower curtain. I keep shower curtain on me like on every shoot that I go to, because I don't know what I'm going to have to diffuse at some point, just really quick, like I have scissors on hand. I'll just cut a strip out, I might gaff it to a light to just like drape in front of it or whatever.
Not like clear shower curtain, but like the lining, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I have it here, but it's the like semi, like if you hold it up, you can't see through it. But if you shined a light at it, you'd see it bloom and illuminate, and it kind of spreads, you know. So if you have like a small lamp, like that definitely helps, because you're taking this like small light source, coming from the bulb, and you're just like, when it shines through that material, it just spreads in all different directions and creates like a really soft light. So I've definitely held up, like during photo shoots, I'll set up like, this C-stand here, I'll boom out the arm and I'll just drape like a whole sheet of shower curtain there.
And now you just have a large light.
And it's super pleasing, So that's something that people might have in their house already. I don't know if they want to take down their shower curtain though, to mess with that. But it's like, I don't know, like less than $10 or 12, maybe $12 at Walmart or something. So it's like a frosted looking shower curtain that, and they can like, I don't know if they have anything that can kind of, it's like a, when you have a C-stand like this, one of the best parts about the functionality is that you usually have like, a grip arm that you can like rotate out from it, to create like a point of contact to drape things. So I don't know if people have something like this, maybe like a mic stand, a mic stand could work if they're not using their mic stand.
Right.
You can totally take this and just boom out the arm and just have it next to your desk and put some shower curtain up and like be good,
Dude, it's so awesome that you're just surrounded by stands of all kinds.
I know.
That's awesome.
So yeah, soft light is pleasing light, definitely. And if, like I was telling you earlier, like right now I'm just boosting the ambience of the room. If I turn this light off, I have more light coming from, I have a large window next to me, just, diffused by drapes. I'd have more light coming from that than any other part in the room.
Right.
So this side of my face would get really dark. And I don't know, to me, that's like not, I don't know, for a video call, it doesn't look too great, Right.
Well, you're not, you're not trying to do
this is the 1% of people who care that their face looks amazing on a video call,
Well, I mean, I think if people are creating videos to post and share, I think it just goes under the category of putting care and attention into your work,
Oh, for sure. And you can use anything that blasts light up, man. You can use like a freaking shop light from Home Depot if you wanted to, like to just create more light in the room. I know that like, I don't know, that work light color temperature might not match the color temperature of like another, daylight temp bulb in your house.
Just
That's
for
more
this,
pure white. But what was that?
Can you do a quick, like, what is color temperature? Like, if I didn't know about photography, I would have no idea what you're talking about.
So right now you are balanced for daylight. Like we can call daylight like pure white. Let's consider that pure white. So when you're looking at a white sheet of paper out in bright sunny day like that, we're calling that white, right?
Right.
If we were to compare holding that white sheet of paper in, let's say, a room that was just lit by that bulb behind your head, that would be a much warmer color temperature.
A little more orange.
And would look a bit more yellow, a bit more orange. If you had your camera set to be daylight, to be balanced for daylight, if you were to hop in a room that was just lit by those yellow bulbs, your overall image is going to look really, really orange.
Right.
That's why cameras have like auto white balance settings to like adjust themselves for the warmer temperature. If you did the opposite and balanced your camera for a tungsten light setting like the one behind you, everything outside would look super blue.
Right.
I actually did that for an interview once, which actually turned out kind of cool, where we used all tungsten lights to light the subject, and we balanced the camera for that. So they looked, their white shirt, everything looked pure white. It looked great. It's also a little bit more pleasing for the warmer skin tones, even though you're balancing for pure white under that lighting condition. Skin looks a little bit warmer, but a little bit more pleasing. The window that was in the background was blue, and it created this sort of blue kind of outline around them. It was, you can find ways to kind of get creative with white balance, but yeah, it's just the idea of, a tungsten light is not the same as bright sunny daylight, nor is it the same as sunlight being diffused on a cloudy day. Those are all different color temperatures, Oh,
go ahead. I was finish your thought.
Oh no. So I was just saying, like, your camera needs to be calibrated is the wrong word, but needs to be set to the correct color balance setting so that colors are represented properly in that lighting condition. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, have you been watching Ozark at all?
Of course. The most stressful show.
Well, now that I've been obviously enjoying the story, I've kind of been, nerding out a little bit on the cinematography, and it was just interesting to notice that it is a very cool color temperature during the day. Like,
if you look at the footage before they like color grade it and stuff, it looks nothing like that.
Really?
Of course. Like
it looks like it's -10 degrees all the time.
Sure. Like I will say that there are DPs out there who like to get the look in camera as close as they can get, for sure. They don't like to manipulate that much on the back end. There are DPs who rely on manipulating on the back end, so I can't 100% confirm that they're not looking at like a blue image in camera. I feel like, sometimes they'll have like a colorist on set where they will kind of create like a rough grade so they can like feel the mood when they're looking back in the monitors,
Right.
So they might apply a look to what they're watching. But if you look at color grading before and afters, like a high percentage of the time, you're looking at like a very neutral image. White is white. The contrast might be really low. So blacks are actually a little bit of a gray. Bright whites are a little bit of a gray, and then, they manipulate the crap out of it afterwards, But Ozark, yes, is a very blue, cool show.
Well, and what I started to pick up on a little bit was, at first I was like, okay, I'm just enjoying, I'm watching it. And then I start picking up on the fact that anytime they're outside or it's during the day, it's blue. And when it's nighttime is like the first time that's when you see orange skin tone.
Okay.
That's when they start using tungsten. And it's just like an interesting creative choice that you don't see a normal human skin tone until it's nighttime.
I mean, look at Matrix for how drastic you can get. Like when you think Matrix, you just think green.
Green.
You know what I mean? Like that movie was really heavily graded. I mean, it's not to me. It's not an unpleasing look or anything. It looks
Yeah.
great, but it's like, man, can you like really push colors to influence like a vibe and an emotion? You know, and I'm still trying to learn about how to balance skin tones within those certain looks because
Right.
you know when we have like a what you call it like on one of your scopes there is like a line that represents skin tone, you know, whether you're a black person, white person, in the middle, whatever.
Like 11 o'clock, right?
You wanna line skin up on that line, that skin tone line. And you know, I first learned that as like that's like a default. Like you want to line up all skin tones on that. But now I'm learning that in like certain color scenarios, that peachy skin color or whatever does not look correct in certain color grades and whatnot. So I'm starting to and interested in learning about how to manipulate skin so that it looks proper within this kind of like colored world that you're trying to create, you know.
Right.
Really interesting stuff. I love coloring. Like I hate editing. I love coloring. Like I could sit in front of the computer forever and just color stuff, you know, because I
That's
love
awesome.
the idea of like, you know, just I don't know, just turning it into something that it wasn't before. You know, I love taking my old family videos that we captured from VHS and like restoring them, like running them through a noise reduction process, sharpening them. Sometimes I've even upscaled them to like 1080p, you know, from standard def. And, you know, I deinterlace them, but in a certain way where I'm actually doubling the frame rate. So I've taken material into 60p at 1080p from standard def VHS, you know, like I love that process of like just making everything brand new and clearer for the day that we're in, you know, for the times that we're in, you know? So yeah, I definitely love that stuff.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What are you watching right now that like you're super interested in just from a videography standpoint? Like what to you is like super cutting edge that people would know?
Like a streaming show,
Yeah,
like a
something where it's like for example, like when I watch Chef's Table, I'm like pretty
oh
amazed at
yeah.
not just obviously the content, but like the skill behind the camera.
I would say that well, you know, I was watching Ozark. I just finished that like, you know, 4 or 5 days ago. I was like watching that nonstop. Like I really did love that. And that was like high up on my list. I really do like, I love shows that have I like shows that have those tones, those blue, cool tones, you know? But I also like films that are shot in like large format, you know, where you have a very shallow depth of field, very similar to kind of like what you have going on in your image right now. I do like shows that have that sort of look. It might just be the fact that like, you know, when the DSLR boom happened and you know the 5D Mark II came out, and it was like one of the first DSLRs with like a video function on it, but it had like a large sensor, so like you could get like a very blurry background, which people who were shooting on like tape cameras and whatnot weren't really able to achieve as easily. So people were obsessed with that look, but just kind of like overdid it a ton. I'm like, I grew up in that sort of setting, so maybe I'm just like I'm one of those people who just like I'm obsessed with that look. But I will say it's so funny because like we've had American Idol on in the background, right?
Yeah.
And we might watch it over dinner or whatnot. We've kind of avoided that show for a bit, but it started auto playing one time after we finished the show on Hulu, and we just kept watching it. It's actually interesting because I'm fairly certain that they are showing they're displaying the show in 60p with mixed frame rates in it. So they have a 60p container that they're delivering it in with 60p content, 30p content, and 24p content, and it all
to change the
looks
feel.
like it changes the feel. So like when they're doing like a little highlight on so when, like, for example, like when they're doing like the cutaways of like the hands waving at the bus when it drives away, it
Right.
feels a little choppier, like 24. And then they have like an aerial shot pulling up from the bus, but it feels like 60. And then, I've been interested to see how studios and whatnot would do mixed frame rate material, because nobody's really doing that. And
Right.
and if they are, they're usually not doing it the right
Well,
way.
and something like that, you got to churn it out. Like you don't have years to turn around an hour-long show. Like,
Exactly.
you're rocking that out and moving on, right?
Yeah, but there are ways to like conform that media down to like a common frame rate, where everything looks the same. It's unusual to like see a shot that's a bit choppy in 24 and then suddenly switch to a super, super smooth shot in 60. It's like not really a thing you see ever. So that really struck me as like unusual, and we're still watching it. We're maybe like 5 episodes in, and it's like I'm intrigued by that. I'm trying to see I'm trying to feel out if they're doing it intentionally, if they're trying to
Right.
make me feel something from that, or what. But I mean, either way, it's super intriguing to me.
I was
Um,
noticing that on like watching golf or watching
yeah,
like football. Like,
yeah,
okay, so there's two between both of those things. Golf, number one, like you're the constant need to change your exposure based on the weather, right? And like and your background, foreground, and like your angles and the sun, like there I can't even fathom, is it all happening in camera, or is it like just every one of those camera operators is just so dialed in as a team that they know how to match that signal immediately. So that's question number one. And question number two is, like, I was watching football and they've got the on-field camera, like the field level view, where it's like, you've got the offense coming this way and the defense is here, and the camera is looking through the defense,
hmm
following the guy, like juking, like, and it's zoomed in, like it's probably at like 400 millimeter, super zoomed in, and like
yeah.
he's juking and jiving, and he's in the middle of the frame, like the camera operator is better than the defense at following. Like, have you
Yeah,
had any experience in any of that, or do you know like what mental state or tech state does it need to get to that level?
to be honest, I feel like I looked up these questions within in the last couple of years. I remember looking up a question about golf. Uh,
Like the
like
fact that they can catch the ball like in
exactly, that's
mid-flight.
exactly what I looked up. I think it was like I'm pretty sure it was a tracking system that they
Okay.
used for it. I don't quote me on that. I think that's what they're using. I mean, I can't imagine a person just like, with a massive camera, just,
Yeah.
yep, got it,
Well,
walk
and the
on,
speed,
like no
like
problem.
the speed of going from the guy hitting the ball to this extreme zoom of.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly think it's like some type of camera tracking system. As for the guys in the NFL, I'm pretty sure that those are just old dudes who have like a ton of experience with the sport. You know,
Mm.
they just have like a great level of intuition, and they just know kind of like what's to come.
But the focus
Like
pulling
it's
on
not
that.
always perfect.
Yeah, but
Sometimes
it gets pretty close.
it gets very close. It
I
gets
mean, and
very close.
in that situation, obviously the stadium is so well lit that you could
Yeah.
be at like what are they probably at, like F-22, or are they probably like at
Oh,
F-11?
that I don't know. I'm not even too familiar with like the sensors that they have, because sensor obviously plays like a part in the depth of field that they're capturing as
But in
well.
that situation, you probably wouldn't be at like 2.8
Oh no,
because you'd
no.
constantly be trying to find focus, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But also like, at that distance, like the the space of focus is not going to be equal to if like, someone was standing right in front of you and you're trying to focus on them,
Right.
where you might just get like their nose and their eye and their ears out of focus. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I'm not sure how much more that opens up, but it's a bit more forgiving than if someone was super close to them. Um, and yeah, I honestly just put that on like intuition. Those guys have been doing that, filming that sport for like a very long time. And as for like the golf thing and like changing, clouds might cover the sun and they got to like brighten it up and stuff. I'm honestly not sure if that's based on the camera operator, or if they have like some type of camera control that is linked to the truck, that like
Right.
where the technical director and the director are like kind of sitting there doing their thing and calling out camera feeds and whatnot, you know.
Right. Like
And
they're
also
doing the exposure controls and the camera operator is only worried about where the picture is.
that honestly could be the situation. Like it definitely, like if somebody told me, I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like I honestly think like that might be kind of what they're doing. But honestly, if the camera operator had to adjust, like he might have like a little picture in picture on his video feed in his eyepiece that tells him like, yo, your highlights are blown out. You got to dial that back a little bit, you know? Like
Right.
I can totally see that happening as well. But yeah, with sports
That's awesome.
videographers, they're crazy, man.
I know we're just kind of going down any rabbit holes, but so like just to wrap it up, I'm just, I would say if, I like your advice about lighting, something simple that you can do without spending a ton of money right now, right away.
Yeah.
If someone had, a couple $100 to spend, what would be something that might be something interesting to take a look at just for people that are wanting to maybe make videos at home or,
Like what
like
kind of videos?
most people have a good camera on their phone. So maybe their first investment isn't necessarily a camera, but anything
Sure.
that you can think of?
Well,
Not that we should be asking people to spend a ton of money right now, but
sure. So, what kind of videos? If you can kind of give me a
yeah,
scenario,
I mean, I've
'cause
got a lot of students that are doing like play along videos or they're doing like homework assignment videos. And then they're just people like me that are just trying to create some content to post on the internet, Um, just
I
I feel like our society is forever changed by this, and there's so much more content that's going to get created, and
yeah.
not because content wasn't already be created, but now you've got way more civilians and lay
Yeah.
people creating content, so anything to make it a little bit better would be awesome.
Honestly, like you're totally right. Like, your iPhone can go a long way. Like, especially if you have like the newer ones. You can use an app called Filmic Pro, which I've been starting to dabble in.
Filmic
I
or filmic?
Filmic, yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I think that was like $15 or something like that, or 30, somewhere in there. And I I realized that it had like noise reduction options.
Oh
I
wow.
was able to film at 4K 60p on my phone with the super wide lens that it has. Like that's like a what the GoPro Hero like 8 Blacks do. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's intense, And so just the fact that I had that in the camera was really cool. I actually did the test at Razer in the office. I hopped on a hoverboard and I like rode around my office, and I had the stabilization turned on the phone as well.
Yeah.
And that app was able to give me like an insane shot just from my cell phone, which I love using my cell phone for photography. I use it for photography 24/7. When I'm
Really?
out on a trip, I'm taking landscape photos. I'm doing panoramas that I'm gonna
You're on the
stitch
11
later
Pro?
in Photoshop. What was that?
The 11 Pro?
Yeah. And but I've been, I just upgraded this phone. I was using the 7 Plus before, and I, will sometimes get like a white panorama that you can do in the phone, but most of the time I'm getting like single images, and I'm taking the grid myself to stitch it
Oh,
later,
so
so
it's
it gives
just
me a
way
higher
higher
quality
resolution.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been doing that for like 5-6 years, where I've just been obsessed with taking like landscape photos. And so my phone has always been a photography tool but not a videography tool, and now I'm excited to kind of like experiment with that a little bit more now with Filmic Pro. The other thing is just like is lights and sound. Like honestly, like sound is just as important as your video quality,
Right.
to be honest.
Right.
um
So many times
you know
I've tried to make fancy videos with my camera, and I realized that the entire video is useless because my sound is either clipping or
yeah,
way too soft, and when I turn it up, so like yeah, totally.
I personally don't have any mic recommendations or anything like that. I know that within the last couple of years, more like Rode has been coming out with mics that you could attach directly to your phone or whatnot, whether that be like a lavalier. I don't know if they have any other type of form factor other than a lav, but just the fact that you can run directly into your phone as well and capture really high quality audio is fantastic. But having some type of setup that I think you might have where you're running a mic directly into your computer, you know, that type of clarity like really, really helps. And, you know, just getting lights, just getting like basic LED lights, you know, for your room. Like I said, like, I mean, this light that I have here in the background is definitely not budget friendly, but you can find lights that have like, you know, less output, but can still like, you know, if I turn this light down to like 50%, it's still crazy bright, you know, and I could bounce that on the white wall behind my computer. And like I said, get like a really soft, white, flattering light and not have to worry about this like dinky yellow ceiling light that I have. And, you know, this blue window that I have here or whatever, you know, it's, you can, you know, when you start, you know, getting rid of those variables, like shutting off that ceiling light and just sort of like blasting your own bright white light that can bounce and fill up the room. Like that's a really good start to to creating a more pleasing image, you know? And also using whatever shower curtain you can find around your house and whatever. You know, the softer light is a more pleasing light. So if you can get shower curtain to diffuse, you know, like a cheaper LED light and just get like a nice, you know, a decent microphone that you could pick up at like Best Buy or something to get some just really clear audio, like that's, you know, a good combination.
And now you can use that shower curtain and wrap yourself in it when you're going to the supermarket.
Yeah.
Man, too soon.
Yeah. Just like a coat rack that doubles as a diffusion stand. You know what I mean? You
just take the stand with you.
Stock it on.
Oh, it's like the Karate Kid. You got to make one of those Karate Kid shower curtain costumes. Awesome.
That's
Adam,
awesome.
Dude, I really appreciate it, man. You taking some time and walking me through some of this stuff. And, you know, thanks, dude.
Yeah, for sure, man. Of course.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks.
All right. Later, man.
All right. See ya.